Roles of a denizen. A content creator is a user that creates posts and is rewarded based on the quality of their content. A content evaluator is a user that helps assess the quality of content and enforces community standards. The evaluator is effectively taking part in a marketplace to curate content and is rewarded for early evaluation. A content consumer is a user that wishes to find and consume the most valuable content in a given subject area or within a community. A lair owner is a person holding tokenized ownership of all or part of a community lair. Owners are rewarded with a portion of all mining activity happening within their lair. Owners are incentivized to build the best community of content creators and evaluators.
What is up, Den family? We have a DENDAO meeting like we do every week. Today is June 30th, so this is the last one of the month for DENDAO. And today we've got Joe Dragon and Greg, who's going to be here with us basically for the foreseeable future on our DENDAO calls. So that's awesome to have him here as well. Hello, both of you. How's it going?
Hello. Hey, how's it going? Doing well.
Thanks again for joining in, Greg.
Cheers.
So we have, as always, there is a link to join this call on the post in the DENDAO layer over on Den. So if you have any points that aren't on the agenda that you would like to discuss, you can either join the call or you can drop it in chat on YouTube or in the post itself as a reply. And in other words, you don't have to be in as a reply like on some of the other shows before you ask it. So come on up. What is on the agenda for today is we've given updates on layers and stuff, but they're all live now. And so we can talk about that. We have proposals in DENDAO to talk about. And then we can check out other layers too, just to see if there's anything. And we should probably do that every DENDAO meeting. Just do a quick, like, all right, everybody open up your governance tab. And we're going to have different. Actually, no, there's a list of all of them. I was thinking we would have different ones, but there is a list of all of them for everybody. So we'll look at that too. So yes, please chime in if you have anything. One thing that was not on the agenda was there's a new post over in DENDAO from Joe about something that somebody else brought up, actually, a different denizen. I don't know if you saw this and it reminded you of it or what, but I noticed somebody asking about how do you determine what the auto-subscribe layers are? How do you determine like what's that decision made based on? And basically the answer right now is this meeting, and we talk about it with DENDAO, and we look at the list and we're like, all right, we got some new ones. And in the past, we've just kind of updated that, I don't know, once a quarter or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. But sorry, I got to change my mix here because I'm picky. But yeah, you have some interesting ideas too. So I'll let you talk since you drafted it. I'll let you talk about that.
Essentially, I don't remember if I saw anything else, but I know every single month that I typically will miss the first day or two of discussions in the new layers because I don't immediately go in and sub. So it just brought to mind. I know you have to think what portion of the denizen population is in that mix, as well as what portion is coming in organically occasionally, not every single day. And they might miss that entirely, and it might be a month of activity that they should have been a part of. And that you look at the auto subscribe layers, because we have a list of layers that for new users they just automatically join, versus the newer ones that are much smaller subscriptions. And I thought it would probably make sense on two separate things. Like, say, first of all, and I didn't write this part up, but that auto subscribe list should be dynamic based upon the layer the layer leaderboard, essentially, right? That
Gotcha.
would be
Yeah.
another reason to get into that layer leaderboard, so new users see your stuff.
I have been thinking about that more since last week too. We had a really good discussion about all those things, and I don't know. I'm leaning leaderboard a little bit. I still really want cross posting just because I do it so much. But like you said, the typical or the average denizen is not abusing it the way that I do. Basically, it's like they're not using the system the way that I'm using it. I'm kind of an edge case, so I can't. If I'm thinking about what overall what does Den need overall? Not just me. It's probably a different thing than what I would typically say I want.
and frankly, for utility for LCP, that if we did something like this, it would make it even more valuable to go through the LCP process with your proposal, and or to pay, go ahead and pay for something that has enough unique lore committers.
That's a good point too. Yeah,
because then you're going to get it immediately there. And yeah, some people will say, "Oh, geez, I don't like that." Okay, I'll unsubscribe. Easy, right? And if they consistently do that, if they know, hey, I don't want any of this new stuff, I just want this, and then it explicitly will go and pull in new layers when I want, they would have a setting to just turn it off. And then the other edge is that anything that would be, have age restricted content would be, not
part of that auto subscribe. Yeah, that makes sense. I hadn't thought about the setting, but that makes sense too, because you could leave the legacy version on, which is like no new auto sub. I guess that's what it would be called, is auto subs on or off. Auto subscribe to new layers as they win the LCP, and that could be a toggle on or off. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And I do say another angle on it that I started to talk about, but I don't think this is really probably part of this, but it would have a similar effect, would be to have either a layer or a setting. But a layer kind of makes sense, that if I joined a layer that would automatically pull in the top content all the time. So all trending content would be in this layer. It wouldn't matter where it was from. That might be something also useful. It's like, I'm going to sub to that because I don't want to be in that layer, but if something pops up really big, then I want to see it, right?
Yeah, so that's kind of like a meta layer or something. And that could be something that is treated, like if we did that, probably treat it the same way you treat as a private layer, one that you have to be a member of to see it, so that it opts out of the economy. It's just there as kind of a jumping off point into the actual posts.
You know what it would be? I think you know what it would be. It would be, actually, this is perfect. This would be amazing from what you just said. A dynamic layer that would use the smart. It might not be a smart contract, but it would be intelligent. So it would basically pull. Okay, give me all the latest content. Oh, I don't have that one in my layer yet. I'm going to cross post it into the trending layer. That's all it'd be, is a cross post. You'd have to have the cross post functionality, but it would be a bot.
So it would be so it'd be a layer that auto posted trending stuff.
Yep.
Or auto cross posted.
Yeah, then it would just be
subreddit that's like that's everything.
Well, there's the front page.
All.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a subreddit that has all of it. Yeah, so it's like the main wall.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Everything that is
actually have a layer that was just everything being posted linearly.
Fire hose.
Within the bounds of what what the community decides.
Yeah,
should be shown
Joe's,
there. Like obviously
exactly.
You're not going to show live updates from the porn feed unless it's the porn wall, right?
Right. And speaking of that, somebody did ask a question, and this wasn't here to hit and talk about, so I'll say it before I forget. So we do have a new layer. It's a new category of layer, right? So we've got 5 new layers and 1 new category of layers, and one of them is an eroticism or a porn layer, basically, but a nice one, a friendly one. So that's not going to be showing up on your app if you have it on Apple or Android. Somebody was questioning, like, hey, it doesn't show up on the app, what's going on? That's not going to show up in the app, at least for now. That's just the way that it's going to be. It's for the web app only, and you have to opt in, and you have to hit the button that says, of age to view this in my region. 18.
This may pose an interesting challenge because right now the URL auto navigates you to the app when you type it into a phone browser.
That's only if you've chosen to always open it in the browser. So
okay,
you might have to clear that out.
That setting.
Yeah, you might have to clear that out on your device.
Yeah, it would just show. I think I can't remember what the error code is, but there is an error code.
Yes,
it does show an error if you try to navigate directly to it in the mobile app.
Yeah, so it'll try to do that, but when it deep links into the app like that, you'll get a blank page and it'll have a red banner error that says something to the effect of it isn't viewable from this client or from the client.
Are they opposed to allowing a link out to the browser?
I don't know what they're opposed to. So I would just say, like, let's not worry about, like putting it on the app store. I think having it on the web app is just fine.
Yeah, I'm just
but that's up to everybody. But I think that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, and it's mostly the Apple Store. I don't know if Google has any issues with it, but Apple has really odd and not necessarily. I don't know if they're not clear to me. They might be clearer than I know the rules they have, but.
Well, that's the main thing, is make sure that we follow the guidelines that Apple has for its App Store. So as long as we do that, that's fine. And if we're going to make them a unified experience, then you're going to do the same thing to the Android store, even though, potentially more flexibility is allowed on Google's Android store than on Apple's App Store. Right now, we don't want three different things.
Yeah, we might separate it. I think they have it. The way we're doing it right now is that we have a separate server endpoint. It's a web service endpoint, which is different between mobile and web, and that's how they're differentiating. I don't know if we can split the iPhone and Android. I mean, I know we can. So if we want to, we could split them, and we could open it to Android.
That's something that I expect down the road that might happen. But right now, in this first pass of it, it's that category right now. It can exist and it can be on Den and it can be even in the economy. Even it just can't be on the apps right now.
And who knows? They might have issue with the firearms layer in time. Yeah,
maybe. So if you want to chime in and discuss this, do it. It's over in the DENDAO layer. And there's a section for everyone to discuss, and some have started already. So thank you, Drew584. Shout out to you. Speaking of the firearms layer, you want to just have a look at the new layers, except maybe the eroticism one, and just give them a little intro? Cool. Sure. So we've got, I don't have them open already, so I'm gonna navigate to them.
This is a meeting.
This is a meeting. So we've got firearms, right? Firearms. And so cool. We've got a little bit of stuff in there. Ethereum has posted a Simpsons, and I have posted a just kind of a little heads up for anybody who isn't sure what the first steps are. So, hey, here's some stuff. Maybe we should make some tags. If you are in one of the owners of one of the winning layers, you have to go in and you have to add artwork. You got to add a banner to the top of it, and an avatar, and maybe a description. And it's really good to have an initial conversation with your community as well about like, hey, who wants to do what and what kind of content are we interested in here? I'm looking forward to like the gun safety, and I've got some shooting tips that I'm going to dig out of the back of my head somewhere from when I used to be in the military. I was really, really good at shooting. So I've got some really good examples of how you can improve your accuracy and your agility with a firearm, and safety too. So that'll be fun. We've also got, let's see, there is, sorry, I don't know why I didn't have these pulled up already. So firearms, photography, right? So there's photography. We have a couple of photography layers now. So there's art, which includes it. And then there is photography. Oh, we have an avatar now. Awesome. And a banner. So photography has voted in a banner and an avatar. So check that out. Great. And then there is DIY is another one. and that one was really quick. I noticed Alice in Wonderland has, I think, 58% of this one. So that one got quick.
Vote,
yeah, that one got done so quick, and they're good. So that was, and that makes sense because that one was that one didn't win the LCP. It was a fee paid winner.
Or was
it was either a runner-up or a, no, I think it was the 2500 matter.
That's right. I think
because the World News, I believe the World News was the runner-up.
That's right.
Right. So, and that's why this one doesn't have that many owners, because as we have seen before, most people put their lore into the top ones that they think are going to win. So if somebody chooses this option, you might have missed your opportunity to have ownership, and you'll have to convince Rockstar to give you some of them. So then there is, what did I say? Firearms, there's DIY, there's photography. Oh, and World News. So World News.
By the way.
And looks like World News still needs a banner and a avatar. It looks like there's a couple of proposals in there. Like, for example, by default, video posting isn't enabled, so the community has to do that. If you're a lot holder, you can just click on those and scroll down and vote yes or no. And like I'm going to do right here, I'm going to vote approve. It'll take it from 18% to whatever the new percent is, 25%, right? So once that kicks over 50, it resolves, or after 1 week, if it hasn't gotten a majority, it'll resolve after a week based on whoever has voted. So, right, there's our new layers, and we've shown them. So let's go to the proposals and look at that, because we have winner options for July. We've been changing, if you've been following along, it used to be just the top from each category, and then we noticed that wasn't useful because the same one would win every time, just because of like the way the game was played in the LCP contest. And then so Joe actually initially went 8 and 13, like in down the list, you know, number 8, not number 1, but number 8 and number 13. And that was interesting. And then that was changed to 5 and 8. And now we've seen the last 2 cycles, LCP cycles, we've seen that option of paying a fee to create the layer that almost won, but you don't want to wait the extra month to see if it wins next time. So we've had it, a couple of them. I know the last 2 this month, June, and in May, there was the 2500 matter one was used both months, in fact.
Right.
So that's cool. And so that gives us a little bit of an idea of, okay, maybe we should scale up the number that wins every time.
Right.
So that's kind of a signaling that we can use once we automate this process, which again is one of the options in the prioritization list. So keep an eye on that.
You show the options on this?
I'm sorry, what? Oh,
can you show the options on it?
On this, yes.
Yeah.
So let's go to DENDAO. I'll just go to governance and I'll click on the dragon icon, Dragon Phoenix, which brings up all the DENDAO votes. And let's see, we've got nav icon, which I should apologize for screwing that up.
Really?
Yeah, here's the proposal we're going to talk about. But the one I screwed up is just the images didn't work, and I had to post them in the replies. That's all.
Yeah, video. Okay.
So yeah, cool. Option 1, option 2, option 3. So we can either change nothing, or we can make it to where the top 1 ranked by unique voter count and the 5th and 13th by total lore committed in that ranking. And I'll switch over to the LCP to illustrate what those 2 categories are in a second. But the other option is
top 2.
Wait, what? Oh yeah, top 1 unique. Or top 2. Yeah, top 1 by unique or top 2 by unique, and 5 and 13. And then the third option is make no change. Use the latest approved criteria that we used in June. So let's switch over to that LCP. And we have 2 categories or 2 columns here. So that's what's meant is by unique voters is in this category, and then sorted by total lore committed is this category, and this is where you would get the 5 and 13, right? The fifth one, like photography, that won last time, and then you would come down and get 13, which would have been books, for example. So that would have won, which I don't have any of. I better get some books, some book lot in there.
Oh, I do. Yeah,
all right.
Good.
So that's what that's about, and that is that's one of the options up in the LCP. And I'm going to navigate back, saying what I'm doing. The other one that I was just talking about is a proposal to, it's an alternate proposal for the navbar question, right? So in the beginning, if you were here before they went away, there were titles next to each one of these icons on the right side of my screen here. I'm just hovering over them, and the decision was made to probably bring those back in some way during discussion with Den, and we landed on, hey, what if we just do on hover, right? Tooltips. So there is a proposal in right now to do on hover tooltips. During that process, that build out or whatever, devs came up with another option. Hey, what if we do a collapsible sidebar, and then they can just choose, right? And what that would be is, since I have it on screen, it shows up for me, but not you, because I have a Skynet account and you don't. The two images that were supposed to be embedded and show up like this, you can see on the right, it's got the titles like it used to have, but at the top, there's a little button with a caret to the right. And if you click that, it collapses it and it goes back to what it is currently, right? With just the icons. And the important part is it would default to having the titles, right? And then if you collapsed it, it would remember, it would, what do you call that? It would be
sticky, you'd remember. It would
persist through closing and opening the app per client, right? So like on your phone versus your computer, it would remember per device, I think. Joe, can you take this for a minute? I have no air conditioning, and that's who's calling me.
Sure,
All right.
no worries.
Thank you.
No worries. And so, and we should look. Let me look real quick. Of the two, darn it, I had that there. Of the two governance issues for DENDAO, I believe. Let's see here, nav text. So the alternate option did pass. It's already there. It looks like resolved 2 hours ago. It looks like use a collapsible navigation sidebar passed. And the other one, let's see, because the older one.
I'll bring that up now.
Change proposal. Okay, the hover did also resolve. Yeah, resolved again 2 hours ago, and it resolved to do nothing, leave the icons as they currently are.
Oh, okay, good.
So essentially, the collapsible nav passed. If that's all right.
Sounds
hopefully everybody likes it. So
apologies, everyone. I'm gonna my screen's up, so you can bring yours up. I need probably 3 minutes.
okay, no worries.
They just showed up. They're here all of a sudden. So I'm gonna let them in and just let them have the house, and I'll be right back. Sorry, Joe, and sorry everybody.
No worries. No worries. All right. Here, let me see. I'm going to share my screen then. Sorry, guys. Den shared, and then I will move that. Add this. Okay. So what else do we have? Let's see here on the agenda. I want to pull. You know what? I'm going to pull the agenda up here, right here. I was going to try to put in a tag for that, but I have some interesting questions because you have to, there's a minimum of 3 letters for the tag. So Second Amendment can't be 2A, and second dash amendment is greater than 13 characters. So we need to decide how to do that. Anyway, let's see here. I'm going to go to DENDAO. We'll go to the next thing. Probably just in time for Dave to get back. Okay, here's the call. Okay, so agenda. So winner options we went through, nav titles, these are resolved. The July LCP winner options are not resolved yet, so do go vote there as soon as you can. There are none others right now. Anonymous posting update. So essentially, this is in process. It was voted as a priority. And essentially, what we're going to have is, as exactly as described, that when you go in and either post content or reply to content, that if the layer allows it, there will be a switch somewhere in the dialogue that says, I want to post this anonymously versus as me. And once you select that, it will essentially not track anything about who posted it or anything else. And when energy is being evaluated for mining at the end of the day, that typically it says, okay, this reply got 1,500 whatever energy, and it was with this consensus, and it has the quorum, and all of those measures in there. That normally it says 80% of it goes to the content creator. I believe 10 to the layer, 10%, and I believe 10% to the parent if there is a parent. So if it's main content, then you get 90%. I think it is. Pretty sure it's right. It's in a white paper, whatever it is. But instead of that, if the parent or the content itself is anonymous, then that will all go to the layer owners instead. So effectively, it's a powerful thing for layer owners. Now, someone did ask about the ability to prove that that's your post. You could post it on Eternal and be able to point to it that way if you really, really needed to right now. We probably would want to include something where when you post it, it will give you a private key or something similar, a private key that you can download. And if you don't download it, it'll go away, right? So, it won't stick around or anything like that, but you'll have a chance to say, okay, I'm going to download the key with which this content will be signed. And now I'm going to post that content. And now if I need to later, potentially for every reply in that thread, I could paste back in or essentially sign this new message with that same key. So it's like, oh, this is OP. Even though it's anonymous, we don't know who it is. We know it's the same person that wrote that original content. Stuff like that, we think, would be warranted later. But to start, we're just going to have anonymous or not. And then I guess the other thing that will be implemented is there will be the ability for each layer's governance to decide whether the layer will be identified only, as it is, anonymous only, or any mix. And that'll be amazing. I don't know what will. I assume the default will go out that everything is identified only, and you would have to, if let's say there's a particular layer that might be a politics or something like that, that the community in politics could decide, okay, let's open it up to also allow anonymous, right? It would be up to them.
I was just pulling up Eternal since you mentioned it. It went to L4 within seconds. That was fast. I wanted, if you wouldn't mind, I wanted you to show me. I just put in some anon text as arbitrary text, and you were talking about how to, if you wanted to, you could, save the hash from one of these transactions to prove that this is you and that kind of thing. Where? So I'm going to scroll down. Where
wouldn't be a pure proof because it wouldn't be signed.
It's a workaround. It's a
decent workaround. If you go down, it used to be in the header. We need to get it back there. If you go to show raw data on the transaction.
All right.
And you could, with your post, and I do this on Twitter occasionally, you take the full proof right there where it's under proof, that's the hash of the entire transaction, including the payload. So if you post somewhere, people can't with Eternals. There's no way to find it with Eternal currently. Yet you can post it out there and then later show if you want, oh, this is what that was, right?
Right. So the workaround is that you would have to personally keep that private, in your head. And then if there was ever a challenge to was this you or is this what you said, then you could show your cards and say, no, here's the Eternal report, which matches the hash I put prior to this.
Right.
Which that's I don't know if you should be able to look it up by hash. I don't know.
Yeah. And Eternal will have some other tools later too for signing and everything else. It did in the past. We turned off some of it.
There was a pro for a while.
Yeah.
I remember too. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to essentially spin off Eternal, and it's going to do some interesting stuff. There's a team already, looking at it. They're just trying to find the right resourcing and stuff. But
cool.
It's the intent is, and I think the model's amazing, but it's essentially a better way to incentivize archival. Of things that are most, I don't want to say most important, but most at danger. Right. It's kind of like the envision is to have an endangered content list.
What if, for example, locked Wikipedia articles were instead safeguarded by an incentivized economics, where editors who were actually responsible with it were rewarded. Like, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, that's an excellent application, and that's like, because we talked to one of those guys on one of the World Blockchain shows that had a hand in, one of the founders of Wikipedia.
Oh yeah,
and this is kind of this is one of the things that's like, all the problems and all the corruption that happened with that. This is something where now you can prove and timestamp stuff to the point where it's just way harder to fake it. To abuse it. Make it transparent.
Because a lot of the issues,
you can fake it still. You can still fake it, but people will know.
The issues they have right now is that they have certain terms that to the authors and the maintainers of certain sections can only do certain things. But guess what? They don't. That there's an entire black market ecosystem that you go in and you pay someone who has whatever reputation, you pay them to advocate for your content that you need on there. Which is not speculation. You can go look it up and see wikileaks.org/files. There is a Wikipedia internal message dump in there. So you can see it all happen. Yeah. It's not like it's a secret anymore.
The fun part about that is you can actually take up any agenda and it'll accept anyone's money. So if it's a benign topic that you just want to take over, you can go ahead and, sell a little bit of your crypto and go out and buy some influence over how Wikipedia goes just for fun.
Yep.
Yeah. The Wikipedia applications. Yeah, that'll happen one day. I don't know if it'll be in 10 years or what it'll be, but that's it's this is eating everything already. So
that's the other thing too. Part of, by the way, it's like maybe getting off on a tangent, but some of the other angles for Eternal are things that are relatively absurd. You wouldn't think that they're actually happening, but they are, and that is that Internet Archive. So Wayback Machine, that there are literally, and nobody knows precisely how it's happening, but there are pages that are going missing, controversial pages.
Really?
Oh yeah, and central authority. So obviously,
I have a contact there.
They do have a process for taking content and making it vanish.
I'll have to hit him up and ask him, because I know he does mostly, he does a lot of gaming and stuff too, like old Flash games and making them emulate and work correctly, which is awesome.
That's cool. Well,
I know a lot of Deadheads who upload their tapes there too for like Grateful Dead concerts.
That's cool. Wow. Well, the other thing that's super interesting is a coordinated dictionary entry changes that literally, I can't remember what the latest one was, but there are certain words where 6 out of the 7 major online dictionaries will all change.
Right, and that's the weird thing to see is, it's not weird to me that
that's the most recent one.
Yeah, it isn't weird to me that definitions of words change. I feel like that's a natural evolution of language. What's weird to me is the coordination of changing it like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
that's why. Yeah,
I don't know.
Fishy.
So it is on
somewhere.
It is on topic. It's not off topic for the meeting. I don't think, because
some of them are just like adding new forms. People have started using it this way. Some of them are actually removing entries that are literally well founded. People haven't stopped using that word that way, but now it's not there. It's really wild.
So and that's where what do I even say? Like regardless of like we had kind of a heated exchange on World Blockchain earlier today, right? And regardless of where you stand on issues and what your opinion is and what your beliefs are and things like that, we should be able to all agree that it is necessary to be able to have a piece of data that is objective. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that an event happened, and that event could be that a word got taken off of the dictionary or changed, right?
Right.
The reasons for that we can debate, right?
Right.
And whether it's a conspiracy or not, and what it's going to lead to later, and what the implications are constitutionally, that is all interpretation of a data point.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can get to the point, because we're not to the point now where we can look at a data point and all agree that we know for like pretty certain that that's not been tampered with, right? We just don't know.
Yeah, it'd be nice to be able to just point to a point on the blockchain and say, no, that
right.
isn't a thing.
And the reason I think that this is on topic is because that's exactly what Den is doing. Everything, and just for anybody who hasn't been around for very long, everything on Den, every vote, every piece of content, every reply, every edit, is on chain all the way out to Bitcoin and others, not just Bitcoin, but most importantly, Bitcoin, because of how you can measure how true something is. And I don't know what it's going to say right now, but I just posted this arbitrary text at the beginning of this call. So I'll refresh, and you have a measurement of it just barely hit L5. So it's not there yet. So it hit Binance, which I don't care about. But once it hits Bitcoin, you'll start seeing a dollar value, to where then you can measurably say like, oh, this would cost this much money to fake this piece of data. So I can reasonably presume that nobody's going to $2 trillion. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to spend $2 trillion to fake this piece of data. Oh, by the way, if they do, they also like break Bitcoin and everyone loses everything. You know what I mean? So what's the likelihood of that happening? So everything on Den does that. And even the anonymous postings, we won't know who it was, but we'll know when it was said, and we'll know what was said.
Right. So
that's important.
If anybody has any, hard reason, or very heavy reason that we should provide that the key to prove that was you, let us know. Right now, we're gonna probably roll out without that, and it'll just be anonymous. You won't have the ability to prove that was you. And if we really want it, we can, DAO can vote on it.
Really good point. I had a conversation at a lunch meeting.
Useful in some context.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it would be definitely useful. The only question is priority, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not a feature right now, but if there becomes like, oh, you want to do this? Okay, we can make sure that we integrate this for you. And that's what I wanted to say is I had a lunch meeting earlier this week with somebody who was asking me a bunch of questions about how we handle ERC20s and how we handle the 1155s and what does that mean for like a DAO voting, and does each vote, is it a transaction, and are there fees involved, yada yada. And a lot of the answers I had was, we don't do it this way right now, but if you were coming in, we do custom governance build outs for business layers, right? I know a couple of the business layers have had, even like, I think, Sticky DAO has completely different governance tokens, custom altogether. So we have the ability, if you want to open a business layer with particular features or particular governance implementations, customization, some custom tooling coming in, we can do anything we want. Like Joe always says, it's just software.
Is there any thought currently being put towards or put in the architecture? I think I know the answer to this already, so I'm asking it. But being put towards making it more modular to where like a more open source approach can be handled pretty readily, or is that something that
eventually? And Joe, you can add to this if you want, but eventually the plan is to open source all of Den's stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And so at that point you could get to the point where it's like, okay, we've got, if you want to come bring in something, bring in your pull request too, that kind of thing.
Yeah. The intent is that, and to have and we're kind of waiting for that on some of the other pieces that would tie into that smart contract model that would essentially, if you're writing a bot, that you're going to write a smart contract for your own layer or whatever else. So
and
that's come up with layers too. Like if it comes to that point where we need it, there's potential to do something like federated layers where they can just plug in, a self-hosted layer into Den, if stuff like that.
Right, and you can do stuff like you can with Discord currently, where you can jack Collabland into your thing and make it so that people can't access your view unless you're holding a token or something along those lines.
Yeah, so that's going to be something that's like, okay, once we get to the point where it makes sense to have that as one of the prioritization votes, we'll get there. We're not there yet. I don't think it's necessary at all right now.
I figured we were headed that way. I just wanted to put it out there because it does move us towards a more open world.
Yeah, if it gets to the point where it's like things just aren't working within the scope of Den's mission because of whatever reason, then that's a point where, okay, this is objectively broken from our point of existence. Let's make it work again. So that's something there.
And that's why we want, like say, when we roll out the anonymous update, we want to keep it as light as possible, so that because there's some real potential that we aren't anticipating something that could be an issue with that, and we'll just have to see. But this will keep it kind of simple to start. And
well, just to say again, like with the voting on DENDAO priorities, when that comes up again when you're voting, the anonymous posting and the lifting of the ban on adult layers sort of went hand in hand, not because they need to functionally for the user experience or for the denizen, but because without having some sort of way for the community to censor themselves or anybody who comes in that's a bad actor, are you just opening up the door for problems by allowing anonymous posting, repercussionless posting without some way to at least manage that sort of content if it comes up in a bad way?
Yeah, well, it's part of responsibly rolling out a new technology that's been shown to have deep social impact, right?
Right, so. And it's an interesting thing too, because we've been in Den, we've been building this stuff out and tuning stuff, and before we even had DAOs, before the communities could vote on their own layers and everything else, and it's really interesting because when we've spoken to, there's another project that we have that we've had active discussions about whether or not to set up a Discord server and to go through that whole process of building a whole community, because in that space, let's say everybody's using Discord. So just to kind of, we talked about, okay, maybe we integrate it with Den, maybe we do whatever else. But the interesting thing was when we talked to people about Discord, and, it'd been a long time. Dragon Chain shut off its Telegram. We didn't shut them off. We converted them to announcement channels. So, you get the posts from Den, but people have to go to Den to ask questions and do things, right? That on Telegram, on Slack before it, on Discord, that there is this necessity to set things up. You pretty much have to have somebody who knows what they're doing to set it up to avoid all of the known big issues with scammers and various types of impersonation attacks and things. But then there's this whole notion that you're going to have to pay a 24/7 moderation team to make sure that gore or other stuff that people just come in and with a
right, just like abhorrent garbage, basically.
Yeah, and it's very odd because, and I'm not knock on wood, right, but we haven't had anything near that. We've had drama, which is on any thing with humans, but we haven't had any cases really where people have gone crazy, and I don't know, it's an interesting thing. We've had a couple of cases where we had to ban people for direct violation of terms that might have been especially early before we even had the abuse tag, right? Before we had tagging at all, that we had some people that were doing things that were not proper, not good, right? And so
or not legal.
But it's this weird thing where we haven't had to essentially I guess the story or the way you would describe it to someone is that we've essentially put behavior systems to work for moderation. It's both evaluation of content and such, but you end up with a very key component of that being that people get blocked or content gets attenuated in its exposure if it is inappropriate. It's kind of an interesting thing. So,
right. Well, and it's the right way to do it from a practical standpoint, but it's also the right way to do it when you have community governance, and that's really the key.
Yeah, you have to have community governance, or it doesn't work. Like that's why it scales. It's
because
a scalability
it's transparent
thing.
and fair. Only if people who have a stake in the community get to decide.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And I'll tell you
think. Oh, go ahead.
Some of the interesting stuff is when we first laid it out, the energy votes were listed in the first pass of the design. Were literally 1-to-1. It was, there's 10,000 energy on it versus 5,000, so it gets twice as much matter as the other one. We realized, based upon wisdom of the crowd research, that the consensus had a part to play, the quorum had a part to play, and then the magnitude, which is the amount of energy, had a part to play in how to measure one piece of content compared to another for competition. And then I think one of the biggest advancements we made was based upon the drama of people getting very butthurt about downvotes. It's like, why would anybody downvote this? And it's an interesting thing because it's a prediction market, and because it's a content prediction market, it's I don't know, it's super interesting to me.
Well, I mean, the alternative is always to try to do something like dumb old Facebook did, right? And make it so that you have a like button, but the only way you can show your displeasure with something is by commenting.
Yeah.
And you'd almost think that they'd want to do the opposite. Like I'd almost want down votes and no up votes so that you can only comment in defense.
Yes.
Like to me, that would be a more interesting world, because you'd end up with a lot of positive instead of a lot of negative.
You know what? Even be a better model there would even be you can only make an upvote or downvote if you comment.
Well, that was what I wanted to say also with, maybe I already said it, but the anonymous feature is like layer configuration. And with, I know what I was wanting to say. With what you were saying is I think one of the ways to objectively measure that we haven't had to deal with that issue yet is that a lot of the tools that are developed for people to have to deal with community issues are not even enabled in a lot of the layers. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of the layers don't even have reputation enabled at all. Right. And so if anybody does have issues with anything, and, like I'm not there all the time, Joe's not there all the time, like time zones, people are in and out. If you're having issues and you don't understand how to use your reputation settings, hit me up. We can DM on Den now. And so DM me, let me know, post about it. I'll try to make a tutorial for it in the tutorials layer pretty soon, but there's some pretty robust reputation behavioral tools where you don't have to single anyone out. You can single out a type of behavior basically, and so that it more fairly applies across the board. And there are maybe sometimes like somebody gets caught up in it when they shouldn't be, but that can be dealt with on a case-by-case basis, and it works pretty well. It'll drop somebody out. It'll after a few evaluations, which is configurable, you basically you have some 24/7 moderation automated at that point, where you can just better deal with it.
I mean, and so much of this project is staked on the notion that people are worthy of trusting with their own moderation tasks. So learning about it kind of becomes your responsibility if you take over command of a layer. So
Listen, I didn't expect to, but I have a hard stop. I gotta split. Do you have the controls for this meeting, Joe? I know I'm driving it right now.
Yeah, I think we're through. We got community input feedback. I don't know what we have.
I just checked again, and there is none.
Yeah. So
at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want
anything else we want to cover? We could probably close out.
I was going to let you keep talking if you had time. I just had to leave.
Right. I'm okay.
Greg, what about you? I know I cut you off just now to say that, but
no, that's fine. I think things are definitely going smoothly. I mean, I can always share any UX nitpicks that I have outside of this context.
We need a full review, by the way. I think we need an initiative to do a full review, because there are little bitty nitpicky things I haven't had time to write up.
I think a good place to do that. There's a prioritization item that is for efficiency and stuff, and that could fit right in there with that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think there's some things that we can do that would be very easy to do that are just sort of low-hanging UX fruit that will just quality of life things up, especially when it comes to like mobile views and things like that. Little teeny tiny things like bigger reply buttons that have a detect area that's highlighted via buttons for for people who have a harder time
doing like a quality of life cycle.
Precisely.
A QOL dev cycle would be fantastic.
Just a general focus on accessibility too, like is always a good thing. Like accessibility and UX are one and the same. If you've got full accessibility, you've got really great UX. So
cool. All right. Cool. I'm going to split while I'm still here and have it instead of just transferring it to Joe and then him doing it.
Okay. I can do
reminders real quick though. I want to say every Thursday there's today we have this meeting at this time, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time, and then World Blockchain Roundtable is in the Thursday mornings. It's 11 Eastern, and then there's also Super Happy Dragon Lucky on Tuesdays, and Coffee with Den on Wednesdays. And I said this last time, but we've got plans in order now. I was going to push for the first week of July and just make it a July thing, but it looks like the second week we're rolling a new show out on Den that will be a cannabis show. And so it'll be with licensed patients, at least one lawyer who passed the bar just earlier this year, I think, which is awesome. And nice. A few other enthusiasts who are knowledgeable in the subject. And also, if you happen to be in Gainesville, where I live, all these people are Gainesville people, and we'll be publishing a weekly list of all of the discounts at the dispensaries for you. So that's going to be Cannabis Layer and Gainesville Layer starting mid-July, and it should be a lot of fun. I think it'll be cool.
To remind me, there's an attorney up here who does a lot of work in that area. He might be willing to come on.
Interesting.
Too, right?
Yeah, I'll ping you on that. Cool.
Yeah.
Actually, so that on that same front, I know a guy who actually does a lot of work for us for Rivet as a company who also may be interested.
I think it could be a great talk because it's crypto, non-crypto, mostly non-crypto people, but with an interest in like what's going on with that. So really interesting stuff. Great, so yeah, absolutely. That's brings another show to Den, and it brings another DENDAO call to an end. Thank you again for joining us, and I'll see everyone around. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Cheers.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best. Adaptable, raw capital, label radical yet rational. A tactical approach is palpable if this animal is fallible, but that conclusion is laughable. So with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now.